How could an army of enslaved children, torn from their families, become the most feared fighting force of the Ottoman Empire? What secrets lie behind their Spartan training, capable of forging such lethal soldiers that they led the empire to the gates of Vienna? Today, we will unravel the mysteries of the devşirme, the backbone of the Ottoman army, and how thousands of Christian boys were turned into the most loyal warriors of Islam. From the fields of Serbia to the villages of Greece, Turkish emissaries searched for their next harvest of soldiers. Boys as young as 8 were taken from their families, exiled to unknown lands, and subjected to a brutal training regimen that few would survive. But those who did became more than just soldiers. They were the Janissaries, the Sultan's warriors, and their story is one of the most fascinating and darkest in the ancient world. What transformed these boys into elite soldiers? What was life like within the walls of the Oglani, the place where their bodies and minds were forged? And how could a military unit, born of kidnapping and slavery, become so powerful that it came to challenge the very sultans who created them? Starting in the 14th century, as the Ottoman Empire extended its dominion over vast regions of Eastern Europe, its armies, originally composed of cavalry archers, began to show their limitations in large military campaigns. It was then that the Ottoman leaders devised a new and terrible method to strengthen their fighting force: the devşirme, a blood tribute in which Christian boys were captured and taken to the heart of the empire. Every 3 to 5 years, the Sultan's emissaries traveled through the villages of Serbia, Greece, and Albania, selecting the healthiest and strongest among the Christian children. It was not a simple kidnapping. It was a meticulous and organized operation, where between 15,000 and 20,000 boys were taken from their homes each year. These young souls, aged between 8 and 18, were the tribute that the conquered peoples had to pay to the Sultan, a price for their life under the Ottoman yoke. Once they arrived in Constantinople, the empire's capital, the process of transformation began. Stripped naked and deprived of their identity, these boys were renamed with Muslim names and circumcised. For the strongest and fittest, their fate was sealed: to train to become Janissaries, an elite infantry that answered directly to the Sultan. Janissary training was one of the toughest trials a human could face. For 14 years, the young soldiers were subjected to strict discipline, comparable to the Spartan agoge, where only the toughest survived. First, they spent 5 years with Turkish families in the rural areas of Anatolia and Rumelia, where they adapted to Muslim life and the hardships of the countryside. Then, those who passed this first stage were sent to the barracks of the Oglani in Istanbul, Gallipoli, or Edirne. There, their training intensified. Physical exercises were so rigorous that their bodies were forged like steel, while religious indoctrination and the study of the Ottoman system of government became their daily bread. The Holy War, the Gaza, was not only a religious duty, but also an incentive for the empire's expansion and strengthening. A Janissary's life was not only marked by military training. In their formative years, they also had to perform tasks such as cleaning, transporting supplies, and maintaining public order. These warriors, still in training, were also the guardians of peace in times of war. When the training process came to an end, the young soldiers faced one last and humiliating ritual: a slap and an ear pull. It was the final test, a symbol of their complete submission to the Sultan and the empire. From that moment on, they ceased to be kidnapped boys and became Janissaries, devoted warriors in the service of the Sublime Porte. The Janissaries were not just soldiers. They were a kind of warrior monks, trained from a young age to kill, indoctrinated to serve until the last drop of their blood. Equipped with arquebuses, pikes, and other modern weapons, these warriors were feared throughout the known world. They were the main actors in the expansion of the Ottoman Empire, from the fall of Constantinople to the campaigns in Eastern Europe, where they reached the gates of Vienna. However, despite their formidable military prowess, the limited number of Janissaries was one of the reasons the empire suffered significant defeats, such as the Battle of Lepanto in 1571. As the Ottoman Empire grew, so did the power and influence of the Janissaries. During the 16th and 17th centuries, this unit amassed unprecedented political power, overthrowing and proclaiming sultans at will. The change in the empire's structure, with sultans ceasing to lead battles and delegating their command, allowed the Janissaries to become a real de facto power within the empire. However, the status of the Janissaries began to change with the massive entry of Muslims into their ranks, diluting the discipline and focus that once characterized this elite force. The recruitment process was relaxed, and the Janissaries, instead of being a feared fighting unit, began to become a corrupt and uncontrolled political faction. The end of this story came in 1826, when Sultan Mahmud II decided to eradicate the threat posed by the Janissaries. In an event known as the Auspicious Incident, the Sultan ordered the massacre of the Janissaries, marking the end of an era. Thousands of them were killed or exiled, and the corps was abolished forever. Thus ended the story of the Janissaries, a story that began with the kidnapping of innocent children and ended with their transformation into a force that, for centuries, changed the course of history. The Janissaries, forged in the shadows of the empire, were a paradox of their time. Christian warriors turned into Muslims, slaves who became masters, loyal to the Sultan until their last breath. And yet, they were also his greatest threat. Today, their legacy still resonates in the pages of history, reminding us how power, when unchecked, can lead even the most formidable armies to their own destruction. If you want to learn more fascinating stories, subscribe and keep exploring the stories of Herodotus.